On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
But Trigger Mike is right. They're crushing us. The only fear we got is military. That's why and it's just not only China. All you got to do, if you can fact check missile logic, Trigger Mike made a great point. You can fact check missile logic, try using a VPN, and then using these different apps that you use and see how they're censored. And then you'll be surprised. It's not just China. It's a lot of countries in Southeast Asia. It's a lot of countries besides, like I said, the Western civilization. But on this topic here, do I say it's trivial or do I say it's big picture? I say it's trivial because guess what? I think that at the end of the day, a lot of these parents need to be accountable. If your kids got access to fried chicken and then NyQuil, then where in the fuck is the supervision? So guess what? Is I'm gonna kill them motherfuckers get high and burn themselves? I don't give a fuck. I think more of them need to do it.
Why doesn't it matter? As you as a parent, you don't control the electronics she watches?
No, I control it. Oh, screen time go off. Okay.
So it does matter.
Go off. Screen time goes off. And she has to ask permission on my phone to even get more time. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is that there's a line, right? You have the breaking point on how much your son or your daughter actually gets, right? So if you don't want your son or daughter to be exposed, do what you need to do to not, it's inevitable, right? To a certain degree.
Is you saying it's trivial, big picture? I'm lost.
I said it's trivial. Yeah.
But I'm definitely lost.
I mean, if your kid goes to school, then they're gonna have to interact with it at some point. But if you are the one actually raising your child and your child has a foundation, then they won't do things that they see on TikTok. The problem is if you're not actually raising your kid and they don't have a foundation and they actually do stuff that they see on social media, that's the problem. But I mean, if you send them to regular school, they're gonna see this stuff. It's just.
Okay, so I got a little bit of pushback, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate on this one. It's big picture. So the reason I say that it's big picture is because I recently heard that China's TikTok is different. So I dived in, right? Like they got a different TikTok, and the app is from Chinese developers. So I looked into it, and strategically, technically what it says is due to the laws, the processes, policies in China, the app has to be different because the stuff we have here violates their law. They're a communist country. So I'm like, okay, well, if you're what is on their TikTok? They got people like being engineers. They're promoting positive things to their children, math problems being solved on their TikTok. So if they're allowing this to just flow freely on our TikTok, then that means it's for an agenda. Like we all know eventually they will be the economic power of the world, but I don't think they necessarily want that to happen in competition with the U.S. I think they want to crush the U.S. The U.S. can't really be crushed as an economic or military power. Really be hurt is by hurting ourselves, and this is how we're doing it. So the pushback I got for you, Kayla, is yes, no matter how you raise your children or strive to raise your children, they spend more hours a day with their peers at school and in that phone. You're going to struggle.
Well, let me respond to that, because I think that you're absolutely wrong. You're right, but you're wrong at the same time. And here's why. A, they won't be the top economic power. As a matter of fact, if you research their economy, it's actually collapsing, especially with regard to real estate. People are not even paying their mortgages. The largest real estate developer over there, Evergrande, is absolutely going bankrupt, and they're collapsing because they have a manufactured economy that's not substantiated by people actually spending money, but it's being propped up by the government itself, which isn't sustainable. You actually have to have small businesses continue to be successful, and in order to do that, that's why America is great, because the foundation of who we are is small business, right? That's A. But B, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you can say, well, they're pushing engineering and so on and so forth. But the one benefit that we have in America that people don't like to acknowledge is the idea that we have both sides of the conversation. So, for example, even though we may have censorship, the other side of it is that when Chinese government don't like what you're saying, they can cancel you, They can remove and completely eliminate everything from the internet. They literally go after their huge stars and overtax them when they don't like what they say and when they stand up to the federal government. Whereas we have that level of autonomy. We still have that freedom, even though there are large tech companies that are doing things that we feel like is egregious, like removing Trump from social media or Andrew Tate or people that they don't like. The other side of it is that even though it looks like they're pushing an agenda, at the same time, their citizens are revolting against what's happening in that communist country, because when you give somebody complete power, you give them complete corruption also. So they can control what it is that people are getting, but at the same time, they can't control the criticism that's levied against them, and they can go against the people that they don't like. So even though it may seem like all is great, at the same time, that freedom that we're afforded is what allows us to be able to say what we want to say on this platform right now.
All right. So do you think in America we have a threshold where we've crossed over into too much freedom?
There's no such thing.
Where it can hurt.
It's always going to be a yin and a yang. It's always going to be a good and a bad. And so anything that is created for positive is also going to be taken from a negative perspective. And so that's just the way of the world. It's never, like, even if you look at it spiritually, the Bible itself says there's always going to be poverty. There's no way to solve for it. The only thing that we can do is try to do our best and then allow for people to make the right decisions when given the option. But people are always going to have the option. But if you're asking me to choose between what's happening here and what's happening in China, I'd rather have the freedom to determine my own legacy instead of being pushed in a one specific way, not being able to make my own decision.
Yeah.
But I gotta say this though, this is not my answer, but actually when they're dealing with the economy, Trigger Mike is right. If you compare the US Federal Reserve to actually the People's Chinese Bank and you see the difference, Trigger Mike is absolutely right. They're destroying us when it comes to the economy. You're looking at these individual corporations, and I don't want to take it off there, but Trigger Mike is right. They're crushing us. The only fear we got is military. That's why and it's just not only China. All you got to do, if you can fact check Missilogic, Trigger Mike made a great point. You can fact check Missilogic, try using a VPN, and then using these different apps that you use and see how they're censored. And then you'll be surprised. It's not just China. It's a lot of countries in Southeast Asia. It's a lot of countries besides, like I said, the Western civilization. But on this topic here, do I say it's trivial or do I say it's big picture? I say it's trivial because guess what? I think that at the end of the day, a lot of these parents need to be accountable. If your kids got access to fried chicken and then NyQuil, then where in the fuck is the supervision? So guess what? Is I'm gonna kill them motherfuckers get high and burn themselves? I don't give a fuck. I think more of them need to do it.